the Agentic Quality Podcast. I'm your host, Tatyana Arbouzova. I've spent over 20 years in quality engineering, and this podcast is where I talk to engineering and quality leaders about how AI is changing the way we build, test, and scale software. Today, I'm excited to welcome Radhika Naik. Radhika has nearly 2 decades of experience in quality engineering, consulting, and healthcare systems, and she's been deeply involved in the community leadership as well. Radhika, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tatyana. I'm excited to be here.
And let's start with your journey. You've had a really interesting path. You started in development and you moved to quality and then to leadership. Can you walk us through that?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. I started in India as a backend developer. My mostly skill set was to write backend code, implementation, systems, integration code. And I was more curious to understand how this code works. I'm just writing a bunch of code, but where does this code go? How does it integrate with the system? How do I know where my code goes and how it is working with this whole application? And that curiosity drove me towards quality engineering. And when I moved to US, I did my master's in software engineering and then picked up quality engineering as my major project for my master's. And that's when it kicked me that it's all about quality engineering. And then I have worked with some major organizations like Wells Fargo, consulting with InfoStretch, some major logos into healthcare, and now I am the delivery manager with Apexon. So it's been an interesting journey, and I have learned so much into quality engineering that it's about bringing everything together and how this end piece works together as a system. So excited about that.
I love it. So many people think that the quality is a stepping stone to development, but so many of us are so passionate about quality that we don't want to go anywhere else, and all we want to do is quality. And I'm one of those people. I've spent 20 plus years in quality, and I still love it. So I'm glad that you ended up in quality and you're still here, and we can talk about it on this show. And I know that you're also involved with the community and you're a chapter lead for Test Drive. So tell us more about that.
Oh yeah, so I'm the Bay Area Test Drive chapter lead. It's very rewarding that you see so many QA professional coming together, sharing their experience. They just don't talk about their successes, but they talk about their failures, what were their setbacks, what were their learnings. And I think that's a really huge platform to learn, to get ideas when you're struggling with something. Think out of the box. Community is something I think everyone should get involved at some point, meet some new professionals, get to learn from them, and expand your knowledge. So it's all about mentorship, learning, and it's a huge platform for learning.
I find that to be very true. And this is one of the reasons why I started Innovate QA community. We also meet together for in-person and virtually and discuss our challenges and help each other grow. So community is definitely, it's an amazing place to grow and to support each other. So I'm glad that you're doing this in Bay Area. And you've spent a lot of time in healthcare and insurance, and that's a very high stakes domain. So what makes quality especially challenging in these domains?
Very good question, Tatyana. Quality is very important into healthcare, and when you think about it, it is like you're playing with very sensitive user data. It is from day one you're working with user trust, and it comes with a lot of you have minimum or zero boundary for error. You always have to get it right. It's sometimes very high stake engineering which is involved, and we have some legacy applications working with modern architectures. So when these two piece of big chunk of applications come together, it's building the end-to-end test cases or testing something around that is very challenging. And that is something, we are working from day one to get it right. So we have our users trust all the time, and we give the best application out to the customers.
Yeah, I agree. Healthcare is high stakes. You don't want to mess with the patient data, right? Or expose it or get something wrong. And it's very data heavy, right? So how do you deal with the data heavy complexity?
We have a lot of internal tools which we work with for our test data. We also have synthetic data tools like GenRocket. So what the synthetic data does, this tool does for us is it replicates everything what we have in the production. The same kind of production data, it's mimicked in the lower environment for us, and we have the exact same relationship. So when you are dealing with test data, especially into healthcare, there are a lot of relationships between providers, between pharmacy, between the dependents, and you want to have all sets of data for your testing. And that's what GenRocket does. It generates the synthetic data, which has these permutations and combinations, which you can test with every time to get your testing criteria fulfilled.
And it uses AI,
It has AI capabilities now, but when we started using it, it was pure synthetic data, and it's a very very old application.
Yeah. Yeah. When I worked in the healthcare, it's been always a challenge on how to generate the data. And the data is the most complex data I've ever seen anywhere. It would have like, I don't know, hundreds of objects with hundreds of fields. And how do you even approach generating the relevant scenarios or relevant data? Right? You always have to mimic the production data or you're going to miss something. So definitely that's a huge challenge that I hope that AI eventually will help us solve completely. And you also mentioned that you've been testing claims using AI. So that's fascinating. Can you explain how that works?
Oh yeah, so claims testing is one of the complex testings I have done so far, because it has a lot of rules and a lot of engines. So every rule has a rule engine which has different criterias fit into it. So every engine runs on a certain criteria, and that could be X person has a Y plan with the age criteria, with certain health issues, and then that claim is generated for that customer, right? So getting all those engines and criterias at one place and driving those rules is one of the complex testing we have done. So what we initially focus on is having all this rule set and having perfect data for those rules to be driven during the testing, and then bring those integrations together and test those. So sometimes we have claims which are auto approved due to certain criteria because the rule engine has that set, and then sometimes some can go into denials or manual review. So that's how we drive the claim testing.
Yeah, I remember also the complexity of the rules like that. And if we had to ask one quality engineer to write the test plan for testing these rules, it's almost impossible to cover enough scenarios because each rule is so complex, and then the combination of the rules makes the huge matrix, right?
Right.
So that's definitely an area where I can see AI helping a lot. So I'm glad that you found the AI to be helpful. And how did that impact your outcome, like your production errors or production issues that, bugs that lead to production?
Yeah, it has definitely reduced our production defects. What I would say is helped us build right set of test cases, have good, strong, robust test suits for our testing. And when you have certain rules and certain engine, there is going to be one-to-one test case, one to many. But what you don't think is what AI helps us is get those skeleton test cases for us, which sometimes as a human you cannot even think of, or thinking out of box, or thinking what if this rule is missing, or what if one of the rule major criteria is missing, and we don't have that data, then what kind of rule will be triggered? So all those skeletons, permutation combinations, AI has helped us a lot to get those skeleton test cases and get those rules in place so we can have right coverage and right test suits for claim testing.
Amazing, amazing. And so claim testing is fascinating, but let's talk about using AI day to day. So you mentioned that you guys are using Claude. So how does your team uses AI or Claude, and what do you use it for?
Yeah, we use Enterprise Claude primarily as an accelerator, the generating automated. So in our day-to-day work set, Claude is generating automation skeleton framework for us. It is drafting edge case scenarios for us, converting requirements into structured test cases, helping us with documentations and summaries. It significantly reduces the initial drafting effort which we take. and drive all these pioneer steps before we get started with our testing. But we are very careful about security. We only use enterprise environment Claude. We never expose sensitive data. Governance is extremely important in regulatory industries. So Claude helps us move faster, but engineers refine, validate, and own everything before execution.
So AI helps you accelerate, but humans still own the correctness and the outcomes, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's fair. AI is a co-pilot. It helps with speed, creativity, and coverage, but correctness, context, and accountability always stays with human, especially in healthcare. You cannot outsource judgment to AI. Engineers must validate every output. The final responsibility lies in human hands, and that balance is very, very crucial.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, across your clients, what challenges do you see when teams try to adapt AI?
Most organizations are still early stages of adoption. The biggest challenge I see is compliance approvals, governance, data privacy concerns, lack of AI literacy, unclear ROI measurements, and resistance to change. So many teams run proof of concepts but struggle to scale beyond experimentation. Some are still in the approval phase. AI adoption isn't just a technical shift, it's an organizational change. So it takes a lot of approvals and a lot of experimentation before it goes into a live phase.
Yeah, and I see how this is harder for the regulated industries like such as finance and healthcare. So, what advice would you give to leaders in those industries on how to start or how to go about it?
Yeah, my take would be to start small, pick low risk, high impact use cases like documentation generation or skeleton script drafting, establish governance early, involve compliance teams from the beginning, invest in training so teams know how to use AI responsibly, what kind of data or sensitive information they're feeding AI, measure outcomes like speed, defect reductions, productivity improvement, and then scale gradually. So start small, start building one test cases and one component at a time, and then gradually build towards it.
And there is always a consideration to buy the tools or to build the tools internally for test automation or for whatnot. So, your company often builds internal tools, is what you shared with me earlier. So, why is that?
We are into consulting, Tatyana, so mainly we customize the requirement as per clients. Every client has a unique requirement. They come up with security policies, compliance requirements, or sometimes the workflows are very unique. So we want to customize everything what a client needs as per their compliance needs, and that's why not every time we have a tool which will fit in with their requirements. Whenever you have to work with such kind of clients or such kind of requirements, there is never one framework that fits all. So we usually lean towards implementing or building our own framework from scratch
That
for those clients.
that makes a lot of sense. Basically, you have a variety of clients, right? And so
Yeah.
they all might have different needs, and so building your own might set you up for a better success. I get that. I also know that you've seen the demo of the Context QA, and since we're on the Context QA podcast, I'm curious, what did you think about it, and what stood out the most to you?
I think it's a phenomenal tool. I mean, what stood out to me was the customization and the low code capabilities it has. Tools like Context QA focuses on reducing maintenance, and I think maintenance is a very huge factor right now which take human efforts. It has self-healing capabilities, so, and it has some intelligent element detection handling techniques. So I think in overall it's a powerful package. This is like healthcare, or if some healthcare industries want to invest into it's a very good and powerful tool.
Thank you. Great to hear. And let's talk about the skills that now the quality engineers need to build or develop with all of these AI test automation tools on the market, or with the tools that the companies are building, like your company, for example. So, what are the skills that you think that quality engineers need nowadays?
I think quality engineers need to evolve more into quality architects. They need to think out of box. System thinking, we need to have product knowledge, domain knowledge, data literacy, prompt engineering, risk analysis. In all, you have to have a automation architect knowledge, and I think that's a must right now with how industry is driving towards AI. The future QA isn't just about execution, it is about quality ownership.
Yeah, systems thinking is a good one. And if someone has a 5 to 7 years experience right now, what would your advice be to them on how to grow in this AI market?
I think the initial step is to not stay into execution only, learn architecture, understand business domain knowledge, experiment more with AI tools, develop communications and leadership skills, think beyond test cases, think about product quality, think about user trust, and think about learning all the new technologies which are coming into market, because industry is changing a lot. There are a lot of technologies, lot of heavy AI heavy tools coming out. So I think that's where we need to grow next.
Thank you. And thank you for such a great conversation. You've shared such a practical, real world insight into the healthcare consulting and AI adoption. So thank you for being so open.
Thank you, Tatyana.
And how can people connect with you? Where can they find you?
People can find me on LinkedIn and through events with the Test Drive community. I'm happy to talk about quality AI and leadership journeys. So find me there.
Sounds great. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. And until next time, keep building quality with intention.